The one thing I'd have to tell people who are trying to build this name of theirs on social media, learn the language of your audience.
Brands specifically in Kenya don't want to get entangled with like political views or anything like that. I mean, they want to appeal to the masses.
You know, when you're speaking right now, me understand.
Yeah.
It's actually today that I've understood what content creation is.
Fantastic. Today, we are going to be having a really interesting conversation, and just wanted to start it off with interesting impact that I came across. So according to UN Women Africa, women in East and Southern Africa region have aged 19 to 21% less than men on average. Crucially, this report shows that there's a massive gap, obviously, that we can see that. And the disparity is to whatever levels they are. Even people have gotten the same education, seniority, or work experience and job types. So to make up for this structural disparity, women would necessarily and essentially have to work an extra 5 hours every single week just to equal a man's baseline NAS. So for too long, women creators, especially on this continent, have been handed the microphone while somebody holds the title charity, right? Equity versus influence is not a debate, really, it's a reckoning. And it asks for us to be able to look inside and be able to see who's actually building with for women's voices, stories, and pockets. So I'll be asking a set of questions, and it's a discussion, and we will, take it from there, right? So, to Ciru and Patricia, right? You guys, your platform has done what moves marketing budgets can move dream of. Has people emotionally, culturally, and politically, just like Ciru also said. But movements and ownership are two different things. Where are you in that gap right now, and what got you there?
Over the years, what I've seen happen is that when influencer marketing was still not really a thing and it was still just coming up, there was a sense of respect of the creator, right? Because we're the ones who had the audiences, and it's almost like they were renting the attention from us. So they recognized that the attention and the audiences that we built were quite valuable. But then over the years, what has happened is it feels like there's kind of like a shift in the power dynamic where, because they're coming with the budgets, with the money, then they feel like they can also dictate that as much as we're the ones who have built the audiences, they kind of like push our agency a bit lower because they have the money. So now there's a dictatorship almost of, yes, we are coming into your home, this property that you've built online, but we're going to dictate how you put the pictures on the wall. Can you move them? Change the curtains. It feels like that power imbalance has been shifting quite a lot. And you'll find a lot of creators, they're now feeling this sense of ennui, like, ni kama nimechoka, but you still love, speaking to the audiences and speaking to the things that you love and the things that you're passionate about. But then you'll find a lot of creators, both male and female, feel like they have to shrink or kind of like change who you are so that you can continue to earn this money that, it's your livelihood. So what I'm finding now is that if that feeling of dissonance gets strong enough, you get this urge to build your own things, right? So you'll build your own brands. If you're passionate about fashion, you'll find a lot of creators now creating their own fashion brand so that they can speak about their own fashion brand, People are building their own properties, not just the audience, but also the tangible things, across we just saw Just Ivy launched an app. So it's across all facets, whether it's tangible products, whether it's services, whether it's events, whether it's, she has her own photography business, which a lot of people, I think, they forget. But Tatiana is also a brilliant photographer, aside from, and she has her Tatiana Karanja photography, and she has Mama Olive Case. So you'll find that a lot of creators now have built their own tangible, whether it's platforms that they own, so they can then do both. at the same time. So you will still speak about whatever brand that you resonate with that will then come with whatever money that they have to offer. But on the other side, people are building their own platforms, like a podcast or just conversations that are owned by you. And I feel like that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Do you think
It's
in
a
the
thing
long
that's
run
actually happening.
it changes then the dynamic of how even these industries do engage with people in this space?
It will have to.
Yeah.
It will have to, because, we might not know what the change will look like. We might know what we want it to look like,
Yeah.
but change is inevitable and it will happen. But in the meantime, creators are not just sitting back and thinking, oh, man, people are actually on the ground building things,
I love that.
building amazing things.
Yeah.
And soon enough, the creators will be the ones with the budgets paying others to then also speak about what it is that they're doing. So the shift is happening.
Yeah.
And I think once that is recognized, then maybe the capital and the equity will then also shift as well.
I think that's really lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Would you like to add anything, Tatiana?
I completely agree with what they both said. I think for me, it really depends where you are in your career as well. I remember also being new to content creation, and obviously I would take what I could get at that point in time, just simply because, as Patricia said, it's our livelihood.
Right.
So, and at some point, and Kenyan brands don't like long-term partnerships, so you have to just find what you can when you can. So I think at the beginning of the career, it's a little bit more difficult to be a bit more selective, and also to kind of hold your ground and be a bit more like have your boundaries, because at the end of the day, you could have a campaign now and then for the next 2 months nothing, and then you have another campaign. So I think it really depends where you are in career, and then as the further you go, the more you're able to now stand your ground and hold space for what it is you truly want to be talking about, etc. And I think also now that we are, content creation is becoming more and more popular within Kenya, so I think now we also have more examples of people that are able to share their what we've been through, how you should go about it, a bit of a blueprint, whereas before I think we didn't have anything. We're just winging.
And everyone is just wanting to get into the space. Exactly. You take what you can.
Exactly.
You said that.
Yeah, Anne, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I was telling Ciru, I don't know if I am a creator, but I am.
I don't know what problem people have with that word, content creator, that phrase.
So I came into the space much later. All of these ladies were my fans, have been, still are for many years. And I think for me, I looked at it from, because I have a finance background, I'm a CPAK, and so I was looking at it from like a different perspective, because if I build an audience and I build influence, what does that mean? And it kind of felt like it's all up in the air, like I'm not in control of how I earn from this influence. And so the more...
Pray and pray.
Yeah, exactly. So the more I thought about it, the more it occurred to me that influence is an asset. I don't think it's equity. It's an asset. Whether that asset will be revenue generating, now that's up to the creator to think about now those dynamics. And I feel like if you depend on brands, again, it's really not in your control. They come and they're far in between, even if they pay well, for example, which takes me back to my business class. And I was looking at what is income. Like if I ask the session, what is income? Income is a value exchange for a service or a product, right? For a service or a product, right? And if you go to your like P&L, I'm not gonna get too technical, but if you go to your P&L, it's income, which is revenue, is price multiplied by quantity. That's what gives you revenue. So now if you have influence, can you just tell me where that is from? What is the quantity and what's the price, right? And so for me, I really highly advocate for you to look at this asset and see if you can productize, find a product within the spaces of influence you are in, so that then you are more in control of your revenue, and it's not you're not depending on other people. Like, for example, Tatiana, the way you have your photography, that's a product, right? And whilst, let's say, you are still welcoming the brands, right? That's that could be a product, not one you're in control of, not one you can sort of like control how often it comes. but at least you need some products that, you can leverage on as you wait for the big brand. So I think that's how I've unpacked it for myself. Yeah.
Lovely. I think you've given everyone in the room homework. And we have to think about that. That's a good question and a good way for me to pivot. I think I want to talk a little bit about the purpose-driven trap and free advocacy, right? Just when we're talking about what it is that you're saying, sometimes people don't productize because they think that they're either doing advocacy or it's purpose-driven, right? So this question I'm going to ask to Tatiana and to Ciru, and then you guys can kind of chime in after. So there's a specific kind of pressure that comes with being purpose-driven creator. The expectation that your activism should be free, your advocacy should be a gift, and that your voice should come without an invoice, right? So who taught us that, and how do we unlearn it? I will start with Tatiana and move over to Ciru.
Right. I don't know who taught us that. I don't think I should be paid for having a conscience. But I do think there is a difference between my labor and my values. And I think, at the end of the day, I think it's that when you're paid to talk on something that's really meaningful or really important, it's seen as disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main problem that we're having. I don't know where that started and I don't know how to solve it, but I've never actually been approached by any company to speak on something, I'll say, meaningful. Not that what I'm doing is not meaningful. I talk about motherhood and I work with the brands that I love, but I wouldn't say that I've ever been paid to talk on something meaningful, something that's really valuable to the society, etc. And I think the problem with that as well is that brands, specifically in Kenya, don't want to get entangled with like political views or anything like that. I mean, they want to appeal to the masses, so we don't want to have anything controversial or anything like that. So it also then becomes a bit complicated on our end to be paid for something like that when really they don't want to have such strong views online. So then it's just up to us to share what it is that we want to talk about on our
So they just want to align with you, but silently.
Exactly. I mean, or rather, they can have some sort of strong message, right? I mean, a lot of the brands that I'm working with, I love them, but it's not that we're talking about something really important in this world.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem.
I did think it's a problem, to be honest. There's a lot of things in society that influencers or creators in this space can talk to society about.
Right, yeah.
But then, like I said, everyone just thinks, you know what, let her just do her.
Yeah.
Then we'll ride off.
Exactly.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they just want to be, they don't want to be seen as problematic. Yeah. So of course they need to appeal to everybody. And that's the problem that we're having. Whereas it could even be something as simple as, let's just use an EABL brand for an example. No, their policy on marketing is so strict.
Yes.
Can't even be yourself. And that's not even, again, this is not an important topic.
Yeah.
Telling somebody they should drink a white cap is really not an important topic. However, but I can't even be myself when talking about it because there's such strong boundaries on, they don't want to be political or problematic in any way. And I think that's the problem right there. So I don't know, again, I don't have any solutions for this. So I talk about what I talk about. I reject jobs on my own free will because of values that don't align. I speak on things without having been paid to do so. But I hope one day we're able to align our values with what we're talking about. I hope that would be the direction that brands could.
I completely agree, and I think conversations like this in rooms like this in places like this do move us towards that. Okay, cool. So I will go to you. What do you think?
What was that question asked again?
The question, who taught us that, and how do we
I have an answer. I have an answer. Capitalism and the patriarchy.
Right.
Capitalism has convinced people that the only thing that has monetary value is a product like this, or a distinct service that the mass has assigned a value to, right? So like things like opinions and things like that are not, there's no value to it. And then there's an extra layer to that. Being a woman, by the patriarchy, we're just expected to do unpaid labor. That's just like, by value of being a woman, you should be doing things out of the goodness of your heart. And it doesn't work that way, because my landlord is not going to accept payment in form of the goodness of my heart, right? So, and I've noticed that, and I'm sure all the ladies here on this panel can agree that there are times in which your influence has been required based on something that you have built over several years. And it's coming off the back of you having taken so much heat for that opinion, and then public tide has shifted, and now people are on your side. And now the brands that were once shunning you are like, oh, hey. Hey, Unadu, hey, big head. So I mean, So
It is wild.
yeah, actually, but one, I think, again, it's the same thing that Tatiana said, that what you can do in your own sphere of influence is turn down jobs where you feel that there's a very cynical way that your voice is going to be used, and keep pushing for the fact that these opinions that we have mean something, and they drive social change. For me personally, even this year, I have lost a gig, and that gig was money, bro. Even when I think about it, I want to cry because I've been so strong politically on my social media, and what I find it really sad that brands will not want to align with you when, even though you're telling the truth, if public perception is against you, but once the tide turns, even though your message has stayed consistent, you've been saying the same thing over and over, but once people are like, yes, I agree with Patricia, she has a point, then suddenly the brands are there. I feel like that's cynical, and I don't know how to fix that, honestly.
No, so essentially what I'm hearing her say is that there's labor already done, because you've done the work, you've shifted the tide, and then now people come and benefit.
The community exists because we build it from the ground up with our voices, our mannerlessness, everything that we've done.
Unashamedly.
Like being unashamed in times when we are required to be ashamed. So we've done all the grunt work. Then on the back of that, people now want to come and say, oh, hey, I don't know. Like, where were you when being dragged through the mud for this same opinion that now you guys are clapping?
And isn't it like social media also, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Exactly.
Like, they also come to you and tell you, why haven't you talked on this specific topic? You've talked on another topic and you're getting dragged for talking.
Exactly.
They ignored that.
Yeah, they ignored that. Yeah, so this community is also a bit...
You mean there's also, again, an extra layer of expectation when you're a woman. And then also it's not even why aren't you talking, it's also the how. How are you expressing yourself? Because also, like even how not just the message, even how we express ourselves is really highly policed in our society to this day, and I find that really sad.
Yeah. I think so too. Do you?
That is so interesting. I don't know how many in the room grew up in the village. I grew up in the village, and I grew up with my grandmother, and literally, all the neighbors, most of them anyway. So the wife was a stay-at-home, and the husband is one who was employed, ameenda kazi. But if you look at the stay-at-home mom, there is a coffee plantation, there's a tea plantation, there are dairy cows, and it was so unfortunate. Back in the day, I think it has changed now, but back in the day, the woman would do the labor, picking the tea, and tea. If you've grown up in like tea zones, it's like the worst crop to deal with, because you have to pick tea every day, whether it's raining, like come rain or sunshine, tea has to be picked. So she will do all that labor, and they will term her as a stay-at-home mom, right? And the accounts back where they take the tea, it's actually not under her name.
Right?
Yeah, it's under the husband's name, obviously, because the husband is the one who also owns the land because of inheritance, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, if you ask, where we learned this, I feel like that's where it comes from. Because how is that stay-at-home mom? That's a whole enterprise.
Barely at home.
That's a whole enterprise. Like, the workload is crazy. And there are 3 cows also, and you have to milk. And sometimes even when I tell, let's say, mom, my mother-in-law is still, in the village, she can't stay with us more than a week. She has to go back because hangombe this, hangombe that.
So there's work waiting for
There's
her.
still, even to date, right now. And so, like, when I just look back, I'm like, that's kind of where we learned it from. But personally, I'm starting to unlearn it. And I think for me, what has worked for me is visibility, right? Being visible, so you're able to be seen by many people. And there's value I offer at no cost on my platforms. But if you want me to sit with you or to, respond or help you out in a certain situation, there's a value in that, and I'm not backing down.
Right.
Might
So
take time.
I love that you've actually pointed out where it is that we've learned it, the society, and how we've been brought up. And I think if we look back, everyone has a story they can tell about why they thought this labor qualifies as unpaid labor. So what I'm taking from this is, quantify your labor, recognize it as labor, and then actively price and
assign
price the
value.
assign value for it,
Correct.
and then you can do that. Yeah. So
I have something to add about the expectation, especially when it comes to things like activism or speaking out about something to do with social impact, and why there's an expectation for it to be free. And, just borrowing from what you said, it's important for everybody to recognize the value in what creators do. I think the reason why sometimes there's kind of like a dissonance in recognizing it is because it's not exclusive. Anyone can pick up their phone and open an account on YouTube or Instagram and post pictures or content. So I think initially you would hear a lot of times, why are we paying them so much just to take a photo? You know? Right? Yes.
minimizing.
So
it.
initially there was a minimization of exactly what it is that we do, but it's because they weren't recognizing that there's also the audience that's been built, right? Which for some people, it doesn't look like work.
Yeah.
Right? It looks so effortless. And so somebody will think, even me, I can do that. How hard is it to just pick up a phone and make a video? Until they try, and then they
had a
see.
conversation about that earlier.
And then they see, oh, okay, it's not just about picking up the phone and posting a photo or a video, right? But then on the flip side, when it comes to organizations that are in the social impact space, and a lot of times they come and they say, we're doing this campaign, but it's CSR, give back. So there's no budget, right? Sometimes, of course, if it's something that you're passionate about, you can agree to do that. But on the flip side, if you then speak to them, whoever has approached you and asked, are you getting a salary for working in that organization, right? Why aren't you doing it for free?
Yeah.
You're not a volunteer,
Right.
Yeah. So
Where's the expectation?
maybe then also recognize
That's
that by
sufficient
you
honest.
approaching me,
Yeah.
right, there's value to what I'm doing, and it's going to support the work that you're doing, that you're getting paid for. So maybe you can think about
Finding a budget.
finding a budget,
Yeah.
right? In some cases, based on different content creators and their values, there's things that we've done and we haven't accepted pay, but because we think it's an important conversation to have. And then there's also campaigns where an organization that's an NGO has approached with a budget, because of course they recognize, we need more people to donate to this campaign.
Right.
So we need the visibility, and we've recognized that you're somebody who's spoken on this before, and we want to align with you.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if we get really granular in just breaking down, okay, there's value in what I do, and there's value also in what you do for whatever NGO that you're getting paid for. So I'm willing to support, even if you just say, we don't have the budget, but we do have a token.
Right.
Or this, we can appreciate the value that you're bringing in.
And have some sort of recognition.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, one thing also that I've learned from my fellow creators, and I'll actually even mention Patricia in particular, because there are campaigns we've both been approached for, so we're all in the same email thread.
Yeah.
Tell me how Patricia will be honest. She will ask such specific questions, and even me, I'm like, why didn't I ask? That is a very important question. So I think also, and I feel that also, and I don't know how to frame this thought. Okay, so there's something about how we're taught as women, how we present ourselves to the world, that being seen as asking many questions tunasumbua, and so we're taught not to be. We're grateful for the opportunity. That's
Precious.
oh, thank you for these 10 shillings and 50 cents that you're giving me. I'm not supposed to ask any questions because I'm a good woman. Please, we need to reject that Proverbs 31 woman good kindly when it comes to work. Go do it at home.
Yeah.
But to add to that, we also know how agencies work in Kenya.
Girl.
And when you annoy one person,
Then now
you're shunned. So I think that also is a big factor. 'Cause
Yeah.
I do want to ask all the questions, like you're saying, but also, once you start annoying one of those people, then it's a wrap. And then that agency controls
You're
like 5,
blacklisted.
6 other brands that they're working with. So that now also
that
poses.
you
to
start
your
wondering why I'm not getting any jobs because I asked 6
yeah.
questions last week.
Generally,
Yeah, but I think the thing that's coming out here is that having the conversations, being in spaces where you're learning even from other creators and from people in this space, being on platforms like Zaumu that really kind of simplify this process so that you're not getting blacklisted. I was trying not to say that word. So you're not getting blacklisted, and creating this open advocacy, transparency, and things like that is really important. And these conversations must continue. So I will close on that one, and I want to go into talking about funding and institutional barriers, which is kind of flowing from what we were talking, right? So funding in this continent for women who create, advocate, and build looks very different from what the global playbook describes, right? So what does it actually take to get in the room, and what did you have to be, say, or shrink to stay there? So Anne, I'll start with you, and then we can do a round table.
Yeah. I'm wondering, the funding playbook, what does it say? What does it look like?
I haven't seen
So it doesn't even exist for us here, right? So
I think the assumption usually is you have this great idea, then you run a proof of concept on the idea, and then you create a pitch deck, and then go looking for investors, and the investors come, Series A, Series B.
There's a step.
Right.
Find a white male.
Find a white male founder,
Yeah.
co-founder.
Yeah.
I think I've actually seen that.
Oh
on
my
some
gosh.
places. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And then scale and then cash out, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how the playbook
The life
is.
cycle.
But the reality is different, very different. So for example, let's even start with like the basic. The basic is banks, right? You can get funds in form of equity, in form of debt. So the debt is banks. So banks lend to women-led businesses less. For every 1,000, a woman gets 300.
Right.
A woman-led
That's a
business.
really bad number.
That's 70% less.
Yes.
Yeah.
About 300, 350. In the same bank, women default less. Make it make sense. That does not make sense. So it's not about risk. So if it's not about risk, exactly what is it? Now let's go from loan to equity, for example. If you look at the startups in Africa in general, I was looking at the statistics, and basically women-led startups in Africa, I think last year got about 1% of funding, total funding of all the funding that was
Available.
issued out in Africa. That's 1 in every 100.
But is that because there are fewer female founders? May that be an issue?
I don't think so. There's a trend here. Yeah, I don't think so.
I had to
But probably that's a factor. Could be
Yeah.
a factor, but I mean, even if we run the numbers, I'm sure
it's still it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So then the question becomes, okay, so it looks like this is a systemic issue, going just by those numbers. And so on my part, when I look at it's like already you're at a disadvantage, walking into that room. So there are many jobs I did for free to get inside the room,
Foot in the door.
right, to get the foot in the door.
So
but
that was your shrink.
that was my shrink, yes. And I think I quickly realized, okay, there's all these systemic issues. And I think from just how my brain just looks at logic, okay, how do I get myself out of this situation? How do I win, right? I can only win if I work towards the things I am in control of. Now, there's a funding that most people don't think about, and that's your customer. Your customer is not biased. They're biased towards their problems, the problem that you are solving. So that room has no bias. You don't need to shrink yourself. You don't need to be who you're not. You just need to present value and be able to distribute that value in a sort of like a cost-effective way. Get to as many customers as you can without burning a lot of money, I would say. And so personally, and for the women in this room, as we wait for these systemic issues to be resolved, they might be resolved in your lifetime or not. So the thing I would probably propose is what do you have in hand? And that would be focus on your customers. Your customer is not biased. As long as you're solving a problem, social media is a fantastic resource to get to as many customers as you possibly can. And it offers you like really good distribution for your products. Yeah, that's what I would say.
think I like that
Wow.
aspect of looking at your customer as a possible investor as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Do teach a class. I
Yeah.
want to come.
She does teach classes, by the way, so sign up for her next one. I'll pivot to Patricia here before I ask Ciru and Tatiana to contribute.
I mean, I think what Anne has said is true. We've seen a lot of creators, actually content creators, who have transitioned into becoming entrepreneurs. Instead of looking for funding or investments because they have tried, and not just in Kenya or Africa, but I've seen there's a creator in the UK who literally, she speaks about just the gap in funding between male and female founders. And so what she did is exactly that. She pivoted to her customers and offered a pre-order model, right? So she says, this is the product that I'm building, and to raise funds, she just said pre-order so that she can get the money.
Right.
Yeah.
And then use that to then build the company, build the product, and then offer that.
Eventually, they actually come once you've built it. Yeah, the banks will start saying hi.
If you build it, they will come.
Like, yeah.
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 So
Like
that
the MVP.
So it's literally just looking for solutions even to your own problems and solving them as you go, because the building needs to happen regardless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And women have shown to be such amazing problem solvers, and they're able to do so. I mean, I was just looking at Tatiana's calendar and I took a photo because I was like, how are you doing this? Meanwhile, my calendar is just always, it's not as colorful as hers. She's got like,
clone, Tatiana.
Color coded.
and I was asking her, how do you do it? Because she's doing so many things, right? And is a mother of 3,
Girl.
right?
Take your cloud.
Thank you. No, honestly, I don't know. Patricia, to
And then she goes to the gym and she's doing pull-ups and lifting
Yeah.
herself onto, I'm like, Tatiana,
She's a muscle mummy.
you know? But that's the thing, you'll find that women, have, like women are just super women, because when you need to get things done, they will get things done. And they won't sit around and wait and say, oh, well, investors are just not coming, so
Exactly.
I guess I'll
Yeah.
just, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm learning right now as I'm building as well my own, you know, tangible things. I'm like, I need to get this done. If I'm going to be up all night, if I need to sell the car, fine, I'll sell the car, I'll do this, but it has to happen because the vision is there, and the vision is not going anywhere, you know? And we can sit down and say, hey, but like, it's so easy for men, or men have it easier and whatnot, and that's such an injustice, right? But we want the injustices to end, and while we wait for that to happen,
meantime.
and while we have a part to play, we're still also doing the thing that we want to do at the same time. So I think once people come and recognize that, oh my goodness, they're doing this despite this, then they do deserve whatever capital it is that they're seeking. In fact, even more reason to invest into that, because if they were able to do it with such little resources, just the same way you'll find African creators, musicians, artists, most people are self-taught. You know, we don't have the luxury of
A Juilliard.
Berkeley or a Juilliard here.
Juilliard, yeah.
But then you go and fight when you're in those spaces now with the people who have all the resources, the education, and the tuko tu hapa, or even
Had better.
you know?
Yeah.
So if that doesn't show you that this is literally like a golden, it's just, what do we call it? Like, he's the gold mine, right? And once you see value in that, then
I love that you said make it tangible, because I think it very heavily goes back to what Anne was talking about. If you don't have a product, what's somebody investing in really, right?
Exactly.
So they do invest in the tangibility and the resilience of doing it even with nothing, right?
That's
so
wonderfully phrased.
do you have something to add, Shiro?
Just basically agreeing with all of them, and then also, like, I love what Anne said about identify the problem that you're going to solve. Even if you want to go into business as an entrepreneur, don't go into things blindly, like the way we all went and bought quail eggs, and then that the quail industrial complex collapsed as a result. You know,
big quail.
big quail.
Maybe because of oversupply. The quail eggs thing.
I feel like as Kenyans, and that's not entirely our fault. I think that's the fault of our education system, because we've not really been taught how to build and problem solve, and that is, again, those are systemic things that need to be addressed. But in the meantime, we as women identify the problem that you want to solve. What problem have you seen that is facing, especially women? And one thing that I want African women to understand is that the market of African women is so untapped. It's ridiculously. We actually do carry a great deal of equity. Things have changed in the last 40, 50 years. We do hold a lot of money and a lot of power in our hands. So look at your audience, your core audience, or the audience that you've chosen to speak to. What are the main problems that they're facing? Then figure out how you're going to solve that problem. And I think now there on your hands, you will have a business that has the capability of lasting.
So there's education in that as well,
Yeah.
in terms of making even the creators think of themselves as a business.
Exactly.
To be able to then position themselves
And
as such.
it's so good that you brought that up, because Patricia raised something so important. You know, that thing where people are like, it's just a phone. You're just doing like this. People don't see the work. People don't understand that before I pick up my phone to shoot content, I have a short list. Like, I was in Samburu the other day with some Gen Z creators, and those are your people. They're handsome. Anyway, I have to say, their teeth are very white. Anyway, so I was there with like a bunch of Gen Z creators, and one of them, I think she's very famous on social media. Her name is Tatiana. Let me tell you, that girl was creating content. Even me, I was like, I don't think I'm a content creator. I am lying, because the angles, the work that goes into it. And so then people also need to move away from this idea that content creation is what you do when you're idle and you have nothing else to do. This is a real full-time job. And also, even as you're planning to go into content creation, also upskill. Figure out, become a good copywriter. That is what is going to help your content stand out. If you've decided that's what is going to be your business.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. I think these are such great gems that we are getting from here. So I'm getting a cue to wrap up. So I'm just going to go with the last question, and I will ask each of us to contribute briefly to that. So, in the women in this room, creators, activists, founders, and audience members, actually backed each other with the same energy we used to share each other's content. What changes and what's stopping that from happening now? So I'll start with you, Tatiana.
Please ask that again.
So if all the women in this room, I'll even take this panel, right? So we're creators, activists, founders, and audience members. If we actually backed each other with the same energy that we used to share each other's content, what do you think would change? And what's stopping that from happening now?
That's such an interesting question. I think one of the things I've noticed on my platform, and from there, is that when I'm talking about something, I talk about motherhood. And so when I'm talking about motherhood, and there's a topic that a lot of women agree with, but they don't want others to see that they're agreeing with it, they always DM me rather than comment, like, share, etc. And it's a really interesting phenomenon. It's usually something, whether it's to do with single parenting or whatever the topic is. And I don't know what it is about motherhood specifically, and I'll talk on that just because that's the main thing I talk about. And actually, Janet just told me I actually advocate for mothers, which is an interesting... Anyway, I think the thing that I've noticed is that it's really hard to look like you're struggling or you're going through a hard time, or it's really hard for women to admit some of the things that they're going through, but they are going through it and they don't want to show it publicly. So we're still in that era of, I can't show this publicly, and they'll do it, so they'll send me a DM. So I think I wish if they supported me publicly or whatever, it would show more people that I'm advocating for. It would show more mothers that we're not crazy, we're not alone, that there's so many other people like you going through the same circumstances that you go through. There's so many other people that you even probably know agree with what you're saying or empathize or whatever it is. I think we would be able to build such a stronger community and like build a space where moms really feel connected to so many other to what they're going through, really, to their journey. And I think I don't know why that's happening, because sorry, now I've even lost my train of thought. What I'm basically trying to say is, if they supported me for what I'm doing or the things that I'm talking about, they'd also learn to have like a bigger community and be feeling more supported and valued and like less alone, less crazy. So I think that would be the case. And I think, for me personally, why I am probably not online supporting so many people is because I feel like it's also such a toxic space. So usually I'll come online, quickly do a post and log off just because of the toxicity that is social media. So sometimes I feel like even I might not be the kind of person that's supporting other people, and it's not because I don't want to, it's because I don't want to spend my time scrolling and finding things that are hurting me or making me feel less than or screwing up my mental health. but I think it would be a much better space if we could support each other. I think obviously there are a lot of topics that I would love to be able to support people on, but it's just a really toxic place for me. And I can, I don't know. No, that's why I'm not constantly online supporting other people.
But I think thank you for sharing, because like you said, the more we share, the more people become aware, then this changes. So kind of answers the question as well.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. Patricia?
I think, actually, just taking what you've said, I think the space is already very collaborative. If there's one thing I can really speak about when it comes to creators in Kenya, we're very collaborative. There's certain camps that are not, but for the most part, we're very collaborative, right?
Yeah.
And I think what it's done, especially for women, and I can say this for myself, despite the DMs, women are starting to see themselves represented by the creators who are brave enough to put themselves out there. But if we do it more women will see themselves and they will get emboldened because one, they know they're not alone, right? Two, they know that whatever they're going through, it's not just them. So they can reach out, they can see how someone else has handled it, how someone else has solved it. They can reach out, because the reason I think a lot of people will just DM instead of publicly is because of societal, just how it is.
Yeah.
But if we keep showing up, we dismantle all these unnecessary things that are holding us back. And then we embolden more women and ourselves, right? Because for me, it's the same thing. If I share something that I was, and then someone comes and tells me, oh my God, I thought I was the only one, it makes me feel like, oh, phew, okay, okay. And if that's another person, then there's more. And then we just kind of keep this cycle going where we're emboldening each other and we're propping each other up. And then the visibility and engagement increases. And then,
I'm loving that. What I'm getting is that in the doing, we become. Yes. So we just continue with that. Okay, thank you so much. Ciru, what do you?
Even adding to everything that they both said, which I completely agree with, when it comes to, like, especially the creator economy, when it comes to female creators, one of the things that I'm so passionate and I wish we could do is just come together and unionize. When you think about the sheer amount of money that we could be making in this economy, I was speaking to Anita Ndero, right? So she spends a lot of time in the United States. Yes. And when she's there, of course, her content, it happens. When you go to another country, now your content starts being shown to people there, right? And then the algorithm kind of opens up, which is also something I'm going to be talking about tonight at the Sauti sessions. Please check us out online. Basically, the algorithm is doing a thing in the global south that I don't understand. So when you go to those countries, and she told me that she'll go to those countries, she's just posting her content. Kawaida too, like she posts here, but she has a large following. So randomly an agent will like jump into her DM like, oh, hey, would you be interested in doing this campaign? So of course you're like, hell yeah, sure. So then now the guy asked her for her rate card and she sent it, and the guy texted her back like, what nonsense is this? In here we pay people a minimum of $15,000 a reel for someone with your following. And the fact that that was able to happen there is because people there really started fighting for their rights. If you see how creators out there are living, it's wild. So we need to come together and stop cut each other off at the knees, because there's also a lot of that. Well, I'll hear Tatiana has a gig. I know that Tatiana is charging $1,200 for that gig. I'll go behind her back and I say, actually, pay me 800 shillings. So we need to stop doing that, because in the long run, it keeps the maximum amount that we can charge. It keeps it low. It keeps everyone in a tiny little goldfish bowl that it's really hard to escape from. That's number one. Number two, I know Tatiana, you talked about, and even Patricia, you talked about how there are a lot of times you post something on social media and the feedback you'll get is private. So I think also we need to start looking at other untapped forms of social media. Like for you, a Discord server would be excellent, because there you have your own community of mothers who can share things openly, and now they're not being, you're not going to post on Tatiana's comments, and then a random passing man comes and says, Ndio maana wewe, and you're like, where did you come from? So you have you can have your community there where you have like-minded people, and also that can be a source of income as well. And then also finally, the one thing I'd have to tell people who are trying to build this name of theirs on social media, learn the language of your audience, right? Because for like, if I want to talk about something that I know a lot of people will relate to, and I want to see that public support. I've noticed that in Kenya, instead of saying, me, I'm feeling like this, you ask them, by the way, pia wewe unasikia hivi? Because now when you pose the question, rather than telling them, me, by the way, I'm feeling so sad, because when you tell them I'm sad, you're inviting judgment. But if you ask them, you also, you feeling like this, now you invite interaction and like, even me. Yeah, so learning the language of your audience is really important.
I think that's really, really lovely that you said that, and those gems are, I'm taking notes. Taking notes. Thank you. And
I think what we can do to do more, not to mean that sharing is actually quite huge, because it amplifies and spreads the message that you're trying to put across. But I think what's even better is, let's say, for example, buying from each other. If I, open a brand and I'm selling lip glosses, please buy my lip glosses. Every woman here probably has a lip gloss in their bag. Buy from them. Share their content, for example. Tell others about their product. Give them feedback if there is something that they could improve on. And I think the most valuable of all, and I think this is, I've spent a decade, by the way, I started from quail.
Oh,
that's how far I've come.
What did you call it? Big quail.
So I've started from like uko chini to get to where I am, and I think I had to dig myself out of that knowledge gap. The knowledge gap is so wide. Most of us don't know what the hell we're doing. We are just, it's try and error, and some people burn out, some go broke and go back to the village. It's such a tough season to be in. So for me, knowledge is so powerful, because once you have the knowledge, it doesn't matter how many times you fall, you're able to pick yourself up and actually look back and see that's where I went wrong. Or you don't actually have to fail at the things I've already failed at. I can sort of like uplift you and share my knowledge, so that it doesn't have to take you 10 years.
Exactly.
You don't have to go through quail, So I think knowledge, sharing knowledge and feedback, constructive feedback, would go a long way.
Zaumu.